hum of the ship was steady as we moved out from Naval Station Norfolk. It was the same sound I had heard 100 times before, a rhythm that lived in my bones now, the vibration of engines beneath my boots, the faint metallic creak as the vessel shifted with the tide, the faint smell of salt mixed with fuel that clung to everything. Routine. I told myself that word often. Routine. It helped settle the nerves that always came when we left the harbor and pushed out into the open water. Out there, nothing ever felt solid. Land disappeared. Time blurred. It was just you and the crew and the endless horizon that stretched in every direction. The sun was only just lifting itself into the sky when we cleared the shoreline. A pale light spread across the gray water. It looked sickly, thin, like the light had been stripped of its warmth before it reached us. I pulled my jacket tighter but said nothing. I was used to mornings like this. The radio gave a low hum in the background. That soft buzz was a comfort. It meant the lines were clear. It meant the world beyond us was still there. The voice of command always waiting at the other end. The safety net you could not see but always believed in. We moved through the motions. Equipment checked, fuel measured, routines carried out by muscle memory. No one spoke much. The crew had been together long enough that words were not needed. A nod, a glance, a shift in posture. That was enough. We understood one another without the need to break the silence more than necessary. I sat at the console and let my eyes wander over the gauges. Everything was in range. Nothing out of the ordinary. Still, that word clung to me. Routine. I clung to it harder than usual. It happened without warning. One moment the radio was alive with its low background hum. The next, it was gone. Dead. The silence that followed was immediate. Too sudden. I leaned forward instinctively, as if staring hard at the machine could force it back to life. But the display remained blank. The sound did not return. I swallowed against the dryness in my throat, told myself it was nothing. A glitch. Equipment failed all the time. Yet the silence pressed too thick, too fast. My chest felt tight. I wiped my palm against my sleeve and gripped the edge of the console. My knuckles turned pale with the strain. I glanced at the crew. They had all noticed it too, their eyes drawn to the same dead radio. No one spoke. No one moved. It was like we had all agreed that silence was safer than words. I told myself to relax, but the air had shifted. There was a bite in it, a sharper cold that made no sense in this place. Goosebumps crawled up my arms beneath the jacket. I rubbed them down as if I could push the feeling away. It did not work. The fog came then, sudden, thick. It rolled across the surface of the water with a speed that made no sense. One moment the horizon stretched open and clear. The next it was swallowed. The world shrank to a muffled gray cocoon. I blinked, tried to focus. The haze pressed against my eyes like it was not just hiding the world but changing it, making it wrong. I heard my own heartbeat in my ears. Slow, heavy. Something was off. I had been in long enough to know what normal looked like. This was not it. Still, we kept moving. The crew did their tasks with practiced calm. Tools checked, notes written, fuel measured again. Every motion slower, every glance heavier. None of us said it aloud, but I knew we all felt the same thing. The weight, the waiting. The sea was still, too still. The waves had flattened as though pressed down by an unseen hand. The absence of wind gnawed at me. The silence deepened with every passing minute until it felt like a physical thing pressing into my chest. The birds were gone too. Normally the air was alive with gulls when we were this close to shore, their cries sharp and grating but oddly comforting. That day there were none. Not a feather in the sky, not a sound. Just the low drone of our own engines. Even that seemed subdued, like the machine itself knew better than to raise its voice. I forced myself to step out onto the deck. The metal rang under my boots. The fog wrapped around the vessel so thick I could barely see the bow. My breath puffed in pale clouds before my face. The chill was real now, not imagined. I listened. Nothing. Not even the faint ripple of water against the hull. The ocean was flat as glass. It should have been calming. Instead, it twisted my stomach. One of the younger crew stepped beside me. He did not speak. He only stood there staring into the gray. I caught the faint tremor of his hand against the railing. He tried to hide it, but I saw. We both knew something was wrong. Saying it aloud would only make it worse. I stayed there until the cold bit deep enough to numb my skin. I turned back inside. The silence followed me. We moved on like that for hours, pretending routine was enough, pretending that if we followed the steps, nothing else could touch us. But the weight in the air did not ease. The fog held tight. The radio stayed dead. I tried again and again to bring the system back. Each time the same flat nothing, just static that crawled across my skin. I pressed the headset away from my ear. The sound was not just heard, it was felt, a low vibration under the surface of things. The captain glanced at me once. His face was pale, his eyes unreadable, but he gave a single nod. Carry on, that was all. So we did. We carried on. We moved through our tasks like actors in a play we had performed too many times before. Each movement mechanical, each word sparse. The silence filled the spaces between us heavier than steel. By late afternoon, the sun was only a pale disk behind the fog. The gray light washed everything into the same dull color. Sky and sea became one. The horizon vanished. We were drifting in a world without edges. I tried to remind myself this was just another day, just another patrol, but the knot in my stomach told me different. The weight in the air told me different. My body knew before my mind would admit it. Something was coming. The ship groaned softly as it shifted on the water, a normal sound, yet it echoed too loud in the silence. I saw a few of the men glance up, their eyes wide. The sound of a creak had never carried so much weight. I forced a breath, focused on the gauges again, numbers steady, fuel secure, systems in line, everything normal. Yet nothing was normal. The world outside the dials had already changed. I told myself it was just isolation, just fatigue, just the tricks the sea plays on men who spend too long staring at the endless gray. But my hands would not stop shaking. My throat stayed dry no matter how many times I swallowed. The silence stretched on, heavier with every passing hour. The waiting was worse than anything else, waiting for something you could not name, something just out of sight. That was how the first day ended, wrapped in fog, strangled by silence. The radio still dead, the sea still flat, my chest still heavy, and that sense deep in my bones that the water was holding something beneath it, something waiting for us to notice. The morning light broke through the fog in thin gray slivers. Not enough to warm anything, not enough to change the feeling in the air. The radio remained dead. The hum of static never returned. The silence was thick, like a wall pressing against our ears and chest. I moved along the deck again, boots scraping metal, checking lines and equipment that already seemed perfect. My hands shook under the strain I refused to name. The crew carried out their motions with mechanical precision, eyes flicking to the water more than to one another, hands lingering on rails. A quiet unease that was no longer subtle, the kind that exists in glances, in pauses, in the shallow breaths that betray the calm you insist on showing. Then I noticed it. Small at first, almost insignificant. A shift on the surface of the water. Not a wave, not a ripple caused by wind. Something different, something wrong. The flat gray glass of the sea bent upward slightly, an unnatural undulation that stretched and shifted in a way that did not belong. I froze. My chest tightened. A shiver crawled from my feet up to my neck. I leaned over the railing, squinting, trying to convince myself it was nothing. A shadow from below, a trick of the light. Something simple, nothing dangerous. The crew noticed too. I could see it in the tilt of shoulders, in the way one man's hand lingered on a tool longer than necessary. A glance exchanged, no words spoken. Recognition without naming. The water moved again, slower now, purposeful. It folded under itself. The waves did not break. There was no wind to move them. Nothing in the charts or history could explain the motion. My stomach twisted. I took a deep breath, tried to steady my shaking hands. My lungs felt constricted. The air weighed heavy in my chest. I wanted to speak, to tell someone that something was there, but the words would have made it real. And nothing about this felt like it could be made real. "Keep your eyes on the console," I said. Voice low, flat, not a command but a suggestion. No one looked away. Everyone's gaze was pulled to the water, to the undulation that had no source, that should not exist. We circled the area cautiously, engine steady, bow cutting through the unnerving stillness of the sea. The fog pressed in tighter. My skin crawled. The air was thicker than before. Every breath felt as though it carried weight beyond its size. Static returned to the radio briefly, sharp, harsh, only for a moment. Then silence again. The sound rattled me more than I wanted to admit. It was not interference, it was deliberate. The hiss and fuzz crawling under my skin. I shook my head, trying to focus on the gauges. Numbers steady, nothing alarming. Steve, the younger crew member, leaned closer, face pale, eyes darting across the gray expanse. His lips moved, but no sound came. The words stuck somewhere in his throat. I nodded in acknowledgement. We were all thinking the same thing. Something was moving beneath that surface. Something massive. Something patient. I tried to reason. Patrol patterns, current shifts, submerged debris, military exercises. All plausible. All discarded by the unnatural symmetry of the movement. No currents could fold water upward. No natural force could stretch the surface in that deliberate ripple. I moved closer to the railing. The deck beneath my boots felt too loud. Each creak a warning. My fingers gripped metal until the skin felt raw. I stared at the surface. The shape formed, if you could call it a shape. Dark, vast, shifting, beyond comprehension, part shadow, part mass. It pulsed slightly, as if testing the air, testing us. Every undulation sent a chill through my legs, through my chest, through my thoughts. I knew enough to know that seeing it alone would change a man. Seeing it with the crew made the change collective, shared, inescapable. I ordered the boat to circle, slowly, cautiously. Not away, not forward, just observation. The engine hummed beneath my boots, the vibration reassuring and wrong at the same time. It felt like moving through another dimension, one layered over our world but not quite following its rules. The fog shifted, like a hand brushing across the water. A low hum filled the hull, not in sound, in vibration, deep enough to crawl beneath the skin. The crew stiffened, eyes wide. No one spoke. The presence of the water beneath the hull seemed alive, watching, testing. A ripple grew larger, more purposeful, wider, longer. It stretched toward us like it was aware of our attention. My stomach lurched. I wanted to retreat, but something pushed me forward. Duty, curiosity, foolishness. I could not say which. I only knew the boat remained on course. The bow cut through the rising ripple, slicing water that should have been solid. The engine stuttered briefly. Not enough to stop us. Enough to remind us that we were small, that we were insignificant, that the mass beneath us had influence beyond its visibility. The weight in the air pressed harder. My lungs burned. My chest tightened with every shallow breath. The fog thickened again. Visibility dropped to mere meters. The ripple did not stop, did not slow, did not break. It simply moved, silent, heavy, wrong. I leaned closer, the metallic scent of the deck sharp in my nose. My hands trembled despite my gloves. I caught myself trying to rationalize again. Submarine exercises, deep water shifts, pressure anomalies. Nothing fit the reality under my eyes. Every instinct screamed that the world we knew was failing to hold up against something else. Steve finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Do you see that?" His gaze fixed on the water. He did not need to explain. The ripple alone was communication enough. It was warning, invitation, threat. We watched, engine steady, bow cutting the ripple carefully. The water moved in slow folds. Shapes hinted at the impossible beneath. Dark edges shifting, undulating as though it had mass yet no form. It was alive in the way water should not be alive. I clenched the railing. I could feel sweat on my palms despite the chill. My jaw tightened. My senses screamed. The radio hummed low, just beneath hearing. Vibration crawling through the hull. Unnatural. We circled. Nothing changed except the ripple continued. The water beneath seemed to breathe in sync with our movements. Not random, not passive. A predator or an intelligence that defied understanding. The fog began to lift slightly, enough to see the horizon again, but the water remained wrong. The ripple stretched. A shadow beneath it hinted at a bulk too large for this world. I swallowed hard, my throat raw. I felt the weight in my chest increase. No one spoke. No one moved. Eyes fixed. Hands gripping anything solid. The presence beneath the water was patient, observant, waiting. We were intruders. The water reminded us. I ordered the ship to move slightly closer, not forward, not toward the shadow, just to get a better observation angle. Every step made my stomach twist, my chest tighten, my fingers ached from the railing. The ripple grew wider, darker in tone, folding over itself in impossible geometry. I could not comprehend. My eyes refused to accept the shape as real, but my body knew it was. Every instinct screamed, every nerve burned. Steve leaned closer again, pale, silent. We did not speak, just watched the water that should not move the way it did. The ripple hinted at mass, at size, at intent. And then it paused, for the first time, as though aware we had noticed, waiting for us to react. The engine low hum seemed louder now, the vibration from below. I felt it in my gut, in my chest, in the tip of my fingers, not mechanical, organic, alive, wrong. I wanted to retreat, but the sense of duty held me in place. Observation over instinct, training over fear. Yet the fear remained, tight in my chest, cold in my bones. The water stilled once more. No ripple, no shadow, only gray, silent, empty. But we all knew better. Something waited, beneath the surface, patient, watching, calculating. I looked to the crew, pale faces, silent understanding, eyes wide, hands gripping. No words, none were needed. The day passed slowly, the ripple never returned, yet the weight remained. The fog did not fully lift. The horizon remained flat, silent, wrong. We carried on. As we always did, equipment checked, gauges read, routines followed. But every glance at the water reminded us. The ripple had been real. The presence had been real. And it had not revealed its limits. Even as the sun lowered behind the fog, I knew the surface of the water was alive. Not alive in the sense of wind or waves. Alive in the sense of intelligence, intent, patience. And I knew, as I had never known anything before, that our routine patrol had ended the moment the ripple appeared. We were no longer observers. We were participants. The silence returned. Thicker now, heavier, it pressed down on my shoulders, my chest, my thoughts. I felt it in the quietest moments, waiting, watching. And I knew we had not seen the worst. The morning fog had lifted only partially. Patches of gray lingered across the water like smudges on glass. The sea looked calm, safe, but nothing about that day was safe. The ripple had disappeared overnight, yet the weight it left behind remained, heavy in the chest, pressing in from all sides. We moved cautiously. The engines hummed beneath our boots. The vessel cut through the flat gray water. Nothing appeared on the surface, but I could feel it. Something below, waiting, watching. Something that refused to be seen but could be felt. I checked the console repeatedly. Gauges normal, fuel steady, no anomalies in readings. Yet the feeling would not leave. It was alive, breathing, patient. It pulsed in the silence like a heartbeat we could not hear. Steve moved near the railing again, his face pale, his hands gripping the metal edge, eyes scanning the gray water as if expecting the surface to shift again. I did the same. I could not tear my gaze away. The calm water was worse than the ripple. It promised nothing, hiding everything. The radio remained dead. Static came and went briefly but offered no relief. each buzz crawling along the hull like an insect under skin. Harsh, sharp, wrong. Then I saw it. At first, just a distortion beneath the water, a vague darkness. Something bending the gray of the sea into shapes that should not exist. I froze. My chest tightened. My hands dug into the railing. Breath caught in my throat. The crew noticed it too. I could see the recognition in their eyes, that silent acknowledgement that something beyond explanation had revealed itself. None of us spoke. None of us moved. Observation was safer than action. The shape rose slowly. Not abruptly. Not in a violent surge. Patient, deliberate. The water stretched upward around it, displacing nothing but itself. It seemed to defy physics. A massive shadow in a sea that should not hold it. I swallowed hard, dry throat, tight chest. The metal beneath my boots felt unreal, like we had left the world behind. The shape beneath the surface moved with a rhythm that suggested awareness, intelligence, something that could see us even as we watched. Steve whispered, voice trembling. "Do you see it?" His words barely left his lips. I nodded. There was no denying it. The shadow was alive, wrong in ways the world had no name for. The hull vibrated faintly under our feet. Not mechanical, not wind or wave. Something deep, organic, conscious, moving, alive, wrong. I tried to make sense. Submarine, debris, marine life. All rational explanations evaporated the longer I watched. The shape did not act like any natural force. It responded, adjusted, folded the water as though it had its own rules, its own geometry, its own intelligence. The fog thinned slightly, enough to reveal more. A twisted mass, larger than any vessel we had encountered. Not solid, not liquid. Part shadow, part mass. Impossible angles, bending the water as if gravity were irrelevant. I could not look away, could not turn my head. The crew's unease deepened. The silence between us thickened. Each second felt like minutes. My lungs burned with shallow breaths. My fingers numbed from gripping the railing, every nerve alive with tension. The shape pulsed gently, the water folding around it. Not violently, not abruptly, just enough to show presence. Awareness, something alive beneath the surface that could not exist, and yet did. I ordered the vessel to circle. Slow, careful. Observation, not retreat, not attack, just watch. The engines hummed low, the vibration crawling through the hull. Unnatural, wrong. Static hissed through the radio, brief, sharp. I pressed the button to speak. Nothing. The hum seemed to reverberate inside my skull, inside my chest, beneath the skin, vibrating nerves raw. The shape responded as though it understood, adjusting, folding the water around itself, reasserting its presence, patient, calculating, watching, waiting. I called out to the crew, eyes wide, pale faces, trembling hands. Do not lose focus. My voice felt hollow. The words sounded smaller than intended. The weight of the shape made language insufficient. The water shifted again, slowly, unnaturally, something massive moving beneath. Closer, closer. The bow of the vessel lifted slightly in response to the hidden force. I gritted my teeth, ordered the ship steady. Every instinct screamed retreat. Duty demanded observation. The shape rose further, part of it breaking the surface. Not fully, just enough. Enough to see that it had form. Twisted, vast, edges folding in ways that should be impossible. Part translucent, part shadow, reality bending around it. Steve's breathing was sharp beside me, his hands gripping the metal so tight his knuckles shone white. I could not speak, could not move, only observe, only wait. The air grew heavier, thickened with presence. It pressed against lungs, against skin, against thought. I could feel every heartbeat in my chest. The shape pulsed as though in rhythm with me, or forcing me to match its own tempo. I reached for the console, tried to call command, tried to speak into the dead radio. My fingers shook, my voice trapped in throat. Nothing came through but static, hiss that crawled through the hull, vibration deep, wrong. The shape moved again, faster, folding the water upward, stretching the sea beyond natural bounds. It tested us, measuring, observing, the power beneath it palpable even without sound. I ordered a maneuver, not away, just shift, observe, engine humming low, hull vibrating, crew silent, all of us watching the impossible unfold. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across fog and water. The shape remained, patient, vast, alive in a way that defied comprehension. I felt the pull in my chest, tightness in lungs, tingling in fingers, awareness of something beyond our world. The vessel rocked slightly, not from waves, from presence, from force we could not see. I could feel it underfoot, inside the hull, something massive and alive, wrong. I leaned closer, pulled myself to the railing, eyes fixed on the surface, trying to comprehend. Shape undulating, alive, twisted, vast, bending the laws of nature, part shadow, part impossible mass. No words came, no sound passed our lips. Observation only, survival only. Awareness that we were intruders in a world that did not belong to us. The shape pulsed gently, water folding around it, movement deliberate, patient, waiting, calculating, testing us as we watched. Each fold of water a silent communication, a warning, a challenge. The fog thickened again, visibility reduced to meters. The shape remained partially hidden beneath the gray, but its presence filled the space, pressing, heavy, wrong, alive. I ordered another circle, slow, cautious, observation over reaction, duty over instinct. The crew followed silently, hands on rails, eyes wide, faces pale, hearts racing. The day stretched, sun lowering, fog thickening, air heavy, lungs burning, chest tight. The shape beneath the water remained, alive, patient, calculating, watching, waiting. No one spoke. No one moved more than necessary. We were participants now, not observers, intruders, witnesses to something beyond comprehension. The shape pulsed again, water folding around it, vast, twisted, alive, and we were trapped in its awareness, forced to watch, to wait, to understand that nothing we knew could prepare us for what existed beneath the surface. And as night approached, I knew the shape had not finished. Night fell fast. The horizon blurred between water and sky, indistinguishable in the dim light. The fog thickened, swallowing the edges of the vessel. The air pressed against us, cold, heavy, like we were moving through water instead of air. The shape beneath the surface remained, patient, waiting, watching. I could feel it even without seeing it. Vibrations through the hull, subtle at first, then stronger, deep, organic, conscious, wrong. I moved to the railing, fingers gripping cold metal. My eyes strained to see beyond the gray, searching for movement, for shape, for anything to confirm the impossible. And then it happened. The water shifted violently, not a ripple, not a wave, a surge that lifted the bow of the vessel. I stumbled, barely catching myself. Steve shouted, his voice raw, trembling. "It's coming!" No one questioned him. The vessel rocked again, more violently this time. The engine struggled under some unseen weight. Vibrations ran through the floorboards, through our boots, through our bones. The water erupted. A black mass surged upward, towering over the vessel. The edges of it twisted and folded impossibly, translucent in parts, shadow in others. I froze, breath caught in throat. Fingers dug into metal, eyes wide. It pulsed, slow, methodical, alive, and aware of us. Every movement calculated, the ocean bent unnaturally around it, folds and waves forming in impossible directions. Steve tried to steer, hands shaking violently. The wheel felt heavy, unresponsive. The engine struggled. I tried the throttle. Nothing. The shape beneath the water was not just observing, it was asserting control. The vessel rocked, violently, metal screeched, water splashed over the deck. The smell of salt and diesel mixed with something wrong, something alive, something ancient. One of the crew, Daniels, cried out, a scream that cut through the night and the fog. "It's going to..." He didn't finish. A wave of water slammed against the side, throwing him to the deck. He hit hard. Pain. Silence. Fear. I forced myself to move, ordered everyone to brace, engine at max, attempting control. The water surged again, bending the hull, pressing against us from all sides. The shape emerged further, twisting, folding, incomprehensible. It had form now, terrifying, vast, alive. I could see eyes, or what I thought were eyes, glowing faintly in the darkness beneath the surface. Awareness, intelligence, something that had existed beyond human understanding, that had always existed, waiting. The shape pulsed violently. The water around it erupted in folds and waves. The vessel lurched, threatening to capsize. I grabbed the wheel with everything I had, forcing the ship steady. My lungs burned, my hands slick with sweat, heart racing. Steve shouted instructions, his voice tight, strained. Turn hard starboard." I obeyed, muscles straining against the wheel. The vessel shifted slightly, but the shape followed. Not pursuing in a conventional sense, observing, testing, demonstrating power. The fog swirled unnaturally around us, shadows bending in impossible directions. Light from the vessel's lanterns fractured and warped as if the atmosphere itself obeyed the Leviathan. Suddenly the radio hissed alive, a crackle of static, not clear, not human. The sound felt wrong, deep, resonant, something in the frequency itself. My fingers fumbled, pressing buttons to speak. Nothing. The hum seemed to come from the water, the hull, the very air around us. The shape surged closer, water exploding around the deck. Waves defying natural physics. Crew members holding onto rails, gripping anything they could. White knuckles, wide eyes. Fear. Pure, raw fear. Daniels tried to stand. Another wave threw him sideways. He hit the metal railing, screaming. I ran to help him, but another surge slammed him down again. The shape controlled the sea, controlled the vessel, controlled us. I shouted for everyone to get low, brace for impact. The Leviathan pulsed beneath the water, its presence impossible to ignore. The waves crashed against the vessel, bending the hull, metal groaning under unnatural pressure. Steve tried to reach the throttle. I grabbed his arm. It's no use. We have to survive it, not fight it. My words rang hollow in the chaos, but he understood. Fear making comprehension difficult, survival instinct taking over. The Leviathan's mass emerged further, towering, twisting, folding the water as if it had physical form and then unmaking it in the same moment. Reality itself seemed to distort. I caught a glimpse of appendages, tentacle-like, impossibly long, shimmering surfaces reflecting light in ways that made eyes ache, twisting shapes that should not exist in our reality. Alive, intelligent, watching. The crew screamed as waves crashed over the deck. I shouted, trying to guide them to safety, my own body trembling, heart threatening to burst, mind barely keeping pace with the impossible reality in front of me. A massive surge lifted the bow completely. The ship rocked violently. I held on, bracing with every ounce of strength. The Leviathan pulsed beneath us, water folding, compressing, expanding, testing, waiting. Steve reached for the wheel again. I forced my hands on it as well. We twisted, pushed, fought against the impossible pressure. Nothing worked. The Leviathan had control, and it demonstrated that control in terrifying, slow, deliberate movements. The night stretched on, waves crashing, metal screeching, fog thick, the Leviathan pulsing, alive, vast, twisting reality around itself. Our vessel mere plaything in its presence. Daniels screamed again, hit the deck, unmoving. I wanted to reach him, couldn't. Eyes fixed on the surface, on the mass that defied all logic, on the appendages twisting in ways that broke natural form. The shape pulsed again. Water lifted, bow rose, vessel tilting, metal groaning, and then silence. The Leviathan vanished. Water settled unnaturally. Fog thickened, the air heavy, suffocating. We were alive. Somehow. Shaken, bruised, pale, hands raw from gripping anything solid. Heart racing, eyes wide, breath shallow. No one spoke. No one moved more than necessary. Observation, survival, awareness that we had witnessed something beyond human comprehension, something alive and aware beneath the surface. I checked the vessel, hull intact but groaning, systems functioning, somehow operational. The crew silent, huddled, trembling, eyes wide, staring into the fog. I whispered almost to myself, "It's not done." The air pressed in, heavy, wrong, alive, watching. And in that suffocating silence, I knew it was true. The Leviathan was still there, patient, waiting, calculating, alive, intelligent. And we had only survived the beginning of its attention. The radio crackled briefly again, low hum, not human, resonant, vibrating through our chests, through our bones, through our minds. We drifted. Engines low, hull creaking, eyes fixed on the water, fog thick, cold pressing against skin, chest tight, heart racing. The night stretched on, eternity in gray. We were alive, but the Leviathan had claimed its presence, its test, its demonstration of power, and we knew that we were not alone, not safe, not in control. And deep down, I knew it would not let us go. Not yet. Not until it had completed whatever test, whatever purpose it held for us. The night lingered like a weight pressing against the vessel. Fog thick, heavy, suffocating. Cold crawling into bones. The Leviathan had vanished, but its presence lingered. Alive, watching, patient, calculating. We moved slowly, cautiously. Engines low, hull groaning, water flat. Too flat. The air felt unnatural, dense. Every breath burned. Every heartbeat loud in the chest. The crew silent, trembling. Eyes wide, staring at the gray that stretched endlessly around us. I checked the instruments. Normal. Nothing unusual. Yet the feeling did not leave. Something unseen pressed against the ship, against reality, against us. Steve whispered, voice tight. "It's still here, isn't it?" I nodded, could not speak, did not need to. Awareness alone sufficed. The Leviathan had not gone. It had only paused, waiting, watching. A faint hum vibrated through the hull. Deep, resonant, organic, wrong, alive. It pressed against nerves, sinew, thought. Something beyond comprehension, something patient, something aware of every movement, every decision. I tried to focus on survival, on movement, on observation without panic. The vessel was our only lifeline. Engine hummed beneath our feet. Bow cutting through gray water. The fog seemed thicker now, closing around us. Then the water shifted, slowly at first. Subtle, deceptive, but growing. Waves bending unnaturally, water folding upward, a shadow beneath the surface. Massive, impossible, alive. The crew stiffened. I grabbed the railing, fingers digging into metal, eyes fixed on the gray expanse, breath caught, heart hammering, awareness of something intelligent, patient, alive beneath the surface. The Leviathan rose, slowly, deliberately, twisting and folding the water around it, part shadow, part impossible mass, translucent in parts, shimmering, vast, alive, and aware of us. I barked orders, brace, hold fast, do not panic. Every instinct screamed retreat, every duty demanded control. Survival depended on action, not fear. The vessel rocked violently, water crashing against hull, engine straining, crew gripping rails, bracing against impossible forces. The Leviathan pulsed beneath us, testing, demonstrating power, alive in a way the world could not contain. Daniel screamed as a wave hit the deck, thrown to metal, pain, fear, silence. The rest huddled, gripping anything solid, eyes wide, breaths shallow, heart racing. The Leviathan surged higher, partially out of the water now, twisting appendages, impossible angles, bending reality. Alive, patient, observing, testing. I forced myself to act. Engine throttle forward, rudder adjusted, attempting escape, but the waves resisted. The water folded unnaturally, bow lifted, vessel rocked violently, metal groaning, systems strained. Steve shouted instructions, voice tight, trembling, hands gripping wheel, trying to maneuver. I assisted, muscles straining, heart pounding. The Leviathan was aware of every move, every decision. The sea obeyed it, not us. Suddenly, the shape lunged, fast, swift, unnatural. Water exploding around deck. Bow lifted violently, crew thrown against rails, shouts and screams cutting through fog, engine straining, hull bending. I held on, tried to steady vessel, heart hammering, breath caught, every nerve alive with fear and awareness. The Leviathan pulsed again, water folding, waves rising impossibly, the vessel resisting but barely. Survival a thin thread. A massive surge lifted the bow high. I gritted teeth bracing, crew gripping rails, eyes wide, shaking, fear raw and visible. The Leviathan pulsed beneath, aware, testing, alive, wrong. Then it struck. A wave not of wind or current, something vast, unnatural, pressing down on vessel, water folding upward, bow nearly capsizing. I held the wheel, gritted teeth, breath shallow, muscles screaming. The Leviathan pulsed, water twisting unnaturally, part shadow, part mass, alive, conscious, testing limits, pushing boundaries, and we were caught in its will. I shouted, engine forward, full throttle, rudder hard starboard, vessel groaning, metal screeching, water crashing, fog thickening, cold pressing in, awareness of something ancient and powerful beneath us. The Leviathan responded, surging beneath, water folding, waves bending, bow lifted, hull groaning, crew gripping rails, bracing, heart racing, fear overwhelming, survival hanging by thread. I forced my hands on wheel, muscles straining, every instinct screaming. Forward, steady, avoid capsizing, avoid collision, avoid death. But the Leviathan was aware, testing, pushing, alive. A massive appendage broke the surface, water exploding around deck, crew screaming, bracing, bow nearly tipping, hull bending, metal screaming, engine struggling, heart racing, breath shallow, mind screaming. I forced myself to act. Forward throttle, rudder adjusted. Avoid collision, stabilize vessel, survival dependent on action, fear present but secondary, awareness overwhelming. The Leviathan pulsed again, water folding, waves bending impossibly, alive, patient, calculating, observing, testing us, every move anticipated, every decision measured. Then silence, fog thick, water calm, bow level, engine low, vessel intact but shaken, crew pale, eyes wide, breaths shallow, heart racing. Awareness of Leviathan's presence overwhelming. We had survived. Somehow, alive but shaken, bruised, hands raw, hearts racing, breath shallow, eyes fixed on gray water. Awareness of something alive, patient, aware beneath the surface. I whispered, almost to myself, "We have to leave, now." The crew nodded silently. No words necessary. Survival instinct taking over. Awareness of Leviathan's presence pressing against us. Engine forward. Throttle steady. Rudder adjusted. Vessel moving. Water flat. Fog thick. Cold pressing in. Awareness alive. Conscious. Wrong. We moved slowly, carefully. Eyes fixed on gray water. Air heavy. Lungs burning. Heart racing. Every sense alive. Awareness of Leviathan beneath surface. Patient, calculating, alive. Hours passed. Dawn approaching. Fog thinning. Light gray sky reflecting on flat water. Vessel steady. Crew exhausted. Hands raw. Eyes wide. Hearts racing. Breaths shallow. I checked instruments. Normal. Nothing unusual. Yet the feeling remained. Awareness beneath water. Alive. Patient. Conscious. Watching. Waiting. We reached open sea, away from area of encounter. Hull intact. Vessel operational. Crew pale, silent, exhausted. Eyes wide. Breaths shallow. Hearts racing. Awareness of Leviathan's presence lingering. Alive. Patient. Wrong. I whispered again. We survived, but it's still there. The crew nodded silently. No words. Awareness alone sufficed. The Leviathan had shown its presence, its power, its awareness, alive beneath the surface, and I knew, deep down, it was not finished, not yet, patient, calculating, alive, watching, waiting. And one day, we might see it again. Subscribe for more real war horror stories.